Today I am in Old Town Berea, which will be my first video down here, but right now I'm going to focus on the Welcome Center, which is housed in the old L&N train depot. It's the last standing depot on the line between either Cincinnati and Knoxville or Cincinnati and Atlanta. I can't remember for sure. And it was renovated a few years ago, but it's still got all the original windows and all that kind of stuff. This is actually the second train station we had here. The first one was too small when it was built, really, and this is what was built to replace it. And today is the first day that the Welcome Center has opened back up because the pandemic shut down. This is how you social distance in Kentucky. I'd measure it by bourbon barrels. One thoroughbred horse. I don't know, I've seen the gait on some of those horses at the horse park. Some of them are huge, just more than 6 feet. So this is the inside, and they have art from some of the local artists that I've talked about. And the only spoon bread mix that is worth talking about is from Weisenberger. I'll give bonus points to anybody who knows what that is. There's some of Dinah's watercolors of the depot. That's so weird. I have a watercolor I started working on a long time ago, and that house looks like the house in mine. Except hers is a whole lot better, of course. This is the original ticket window from when the train was here. And I'm gonna say something out loud now that I'm not gonna name any names, but I know who in town has the original floor clock from this depot when it was abandoned. Do you know? You don't know? No. It's not too far from here. Oh my gosh. He'd kill me if I told, but. And here was the ticket office. Now I'm not gonna pull these drawers out. These are all original. But on the bottom of this middle drawer right here, there is a pencil writing of the man who helped build the depot, and he signed his name and the date and stuff on it. And sometimes they pull that out and show visitors. Now in normal Jimmy Lou's beads, gone way too soon. But every year in June, they have an L&N day here at the depot, and they bring in model trains and railroad memorabilia. The railroad, of course, the train runs right behind this building still. They do a slow down order so the kids can hang on the fence and watch the train go by. This is some stuff from Churchill Weavers, which is something I will need to do a video on at some point, so I'm not gonna get into it now, but there's Warren A. May's dulcimers that he makes by hand. There's some old railroad stuff. Oh, that's kind of cool. The L&N Don't Stop Here Anymore, one of my favorite mountain songs. It's actually a sad song, and I usually don't like sad stuff. Here are some old pictures. This was the first depot here. I don't know if you can see it very good. Here's some old pictures. And of course they have public restrooms, important tornado shelter. And of course, everything here at the Welcome Center is handicap accessible. I think these are just offices back here, so I don't want to be too nosy. If you look out the back window, you can see the railroad. Oh. Now back here where we were, like I said, Berea was founded, as an interracial community, but there were some places that were forced to be segregated by law. The train depot was one of them. So back there was what they called the colored waiting room for black people who are waiting on the train. This Berea sign is actually the original sign that hung on the depot back when it was in operation. The funny thing is, this was donated back for a long time in the 50s and 60s after the railroad stopped here. This building was in bad shape, and Old Town was not the part of town you came to, especially after dark. And people would sit here and drink beer and do other things because the depot was boarded up. But this sign was donated back. I was here when he brought it in. You can see these are where people had shot at it with a shotgun or something. But they had it on their back porch, hanging on the wall for years. And decided to give it back because they'd stole it when they were teenagers. Okay, this shop over here in the barn, this is the honeysuckle vine. And back in the day when everybody still smoked, this corner of the porch was kind of like the smoking area for all the businesses and stuff down here in Old Town. And this cabin, which we'll go over there in a second, that's the Shiflet cabin, and the front porch actually doubles as a stage. We have block parties and bands and things down here on weekends. So one night we were having a bluegrass thing down here. A bunch of people were over here on the porch smoking. We started walking back over to the grass, and somebody said, "I smell smoke." And I turned around, and part of the sidewall was smoking to be damned because one of the cigarettes had got under it, and the wind had caught the underneath. Not really on fire, but it was smoking big time. There was probably 500 people over here in the grass watching the band. So we were thinking, okay, how can we do this without people realizing this building's on fire and causing a panic? So we ran in and out the back door back here of the train station with buckets of water, trying to get the fire put out on the wall without anybody knowing about it. And about the third bucket, somebody hollered, "Call the fire department." We got caught. As you can see, this is the back deck of the depot. And it is wild to think how many thousands of people have stood here and caught the train. And it's also wild how this place shakes when the train comes by today. And here is one of the old radiators that was in the waiting room of the depot. I bet it weighs a ton. It's chained down though, it might not. No, it's heavy. That's enough to give you a hernia or make you fart if you pick it up. Now this is the Shiflet cabin. Sometimes you gotta be careful saying that one. And the city owns it, but it's rented out as an artist space right now. And like I said, the front porch actually doubles for a stage, and we have concerts down here. Normally in the summer, we have what's called the Levitt Amp concert series, and every Friday night, this is basically a block party, and this is the stage. Now the cabin, I don't remember dates. I know it's old, but the cabin started out life over in eastern Madison County, close to Estill County, in a place called, here we go. It was built in a place called Panola, which if you're local, you know that place as Bearwaller. And it actually doubled as a school. And then it was moved to Berea down on Adams Street and was in the backyard of the Ramseys for a long time. Then they were going to have to get rid of her to move it. And this was where it came to. And it was really funny. It came down Adams Street on a flatbed. And as they would get to power lines that were too low, they'd climb up with brooms and push the electric lines up so the cabin would fit underneath of them. And I don't know how long it's appropriate to hold on these things to read, but you all know how to hit the pause button. One of my funny stories about this cabin, used to they didn't rent it out, it was just set up kind of as an exhibit, and they have antiques and that kind of thing. And yes, it's handicap accessible, you all. And the upstairs was a lot of the antiques and exhibit stuff they didn't have set out. Things they were still trying to like category and figure out how old they were and things like that. And I was down here in Old Town one day doing reporter duty, covering a car show. And I was wore out and it was hot and I'd been here all day and it was still a couple hours until they were going to give away the prizes. I thought, I've got to take a nap. So I went upstairs in this cabin when nobody was looking and went to sleep. And when I woke up, it was nighttime and the car show was over and I was the only car left in Old Town, and I had to sneak out the back of the cabin and lock the door and go home. And nobody ever knows I went up there and went to sleep until now. And all you mountain people know what that building was. That was the smokehouse. Or on my dad's side of the family, that's where the older girls slept. So I guess you could say my aunts are smoky. Now these gigantic hands here, there are 3 of them right here where we're at, but there's some all over town. And this was the Show of Hands project that the Arts Council did a few years ago. And there were different artists. A lot of cities do this with horses and coffee cups and that kind of thing. We did hands because Berea is known for labor, work, and taking pride in your work, being creative with your hands, and hands are a symbol of hospitality. And so this one is people standing on their heads. I'm sorry, I don't know the names of who did all of them. The only one down, I know one down here who did it. Now here's another one of the hands. I can't believe these hands were made probably 20 years ago, and this one looks like he's lost his nuts, or some of his nuts. They're made out of fiberglass. And here's maps of the trails you always see me walking on. Or some of them. There's more over here. Karen Story, if you're watching this, this is the wrong one. Brushy Fork. There it is. The Pinnacles. And I've decided after our talk the other night, I'm going to do a ghost story video before too long. It's funny how you don't see anything about the Madison Man on any of this tourism stuff. I can tell you a lot about this one. Bobby Craig Thompson, who's a jewelry maker uptown, made this, or painted this hand. And I'd mentioned in one of my other videos, our sister city is in Japan. It's a sister region called Yatsukataki. Berea's sister city within Yatsukataki was called Takane until a few years ago, and they actually merged, and they have a different name now. But as you see, this one has Mount Fuji. If you go around to the back, that big green mountain is our version of Mount Fuji called Pilot Knob. And I thought that was a really cool connection. This is kind of like a quiet little spot to get in the shade. And when there's concerts and that kind of thing down here, this is the smoking area because it's away from everybody. This is the old hotel building. has shops in it. I've always liked that gate. And I'd say that gate's old. We're gonna go up this side of Broadway. There's another hand. Now this big hand over here, one of my favorite people in Berea painted this, Mary Comer. Neil and Mary are husband and wife that have a shop down here, and we'll see it here in a minute. We'll peek in the windows. Okay, so most of the stores, of course, are still closed. And it's windy, so you might not can even hear me, but we're gonna walk up the street and at least peek in some windows. This is our big rocking chair. It doesn't rock. And let me warn you, if you come to Berea and sit in this chair in the summertime, it's black. It gets really, really hot. So lay something down before you sit on it. This is Bob Berger's studio. He's another watercolor, amazing watercolor. And across the street, you've got the radio station. And this is the Kentucky Guild of Arts and Craftsmen. I don't think they're open. We'll go in here one day and do a video too. One of my 6th grade teachers is the director of the guild. There's so much glare today. There's some more stuff in the windows. Now this is the candle company, but back in the day, this was the jail. This is the Bob Dylan mural. In Berea, we have this mural project that's getting a lot of murals painted on the sides of buildings. This is one of the newer ones, but not the newest one. We'll see the newest one here in just a minute. Okay, this is the Fudge building. That's not its real name. This has a massage studio, which is very different from a massage parlor. There went a cat. Here's the Fudge Shop. And they have fudge and ice cream. These are the same people that have the Fudge Shop on College Square from the Night Walk video that I did. That big shark head's pretty cool. Shark or sea creature. Big Joe. Does that look like a Carolina Reaper Jelly Belly? This is a new place I'm not seeing yet. I'm trying to stay out of the glare. And if you hear the chimes ringing, they are actually playing Berea Beloved, which is the town and the college song. Probably can't hear it for that air conditioner right here. But during the pandemic, they have been playing Berea Beloved on the chimes every day at 5 o'clock. Now this building here belongs to 2 of my favorite people in Berea, 2 of the coolest and nicest people you'll ever meet. Neil and Mary Comer. Neil's a weaver. Mary does corn shuck dolls, if you can see. And they all have, right now, little coronavirus masks on so they don't get sick and they don't get anybody else sick. And these are the little elf houses that Mary makes, and I have 3 of these. Here's some more of Mary's dolls. It's really sad. I used to get my mom one every now and then, like for Christmas. And last year, Mom went out to the building to get her Christmas stuff out, and somebody had stole the tub with all of her corn shuck dolls. Well, I've returned home to find out I did not record anything that I thought I was recording at the end of the video, which included this, which is the mural of bell hooks. Is the one I was most excited to see today, and it's the newest. And I didn't say bye. So I appreciate y'all watching. Everybody take care.